Welcome back to From Fear to Fun, the podcast where we explore how to transform medical encounters with children from moments of fear into opportunities for fun, with connection, confidence, and cooperation. I'm so glad that you are here. Today we explore how autonomy is not a threat to the consultation, but a natural outcome of a respectful, trust-based relationship. One that begins in the very first seconds. Autonomy is granted by investing in trust. For many doctors and many parents, a child's autonomy can feel frightening. What if the child refuses to be examined? What if no connection is made? What if trust cannot be achieved? Today, we take a closer look at solutions for these challenges. A sense of autonomy is rooted within every one of us. We try to control our teeny tiny bubble, and we try to be safe. This is true for children, their parents, and any adult alike. In any interaction with adults, we would expect them to allow us in for a connection. Unfortunately, frequently in interaction with children, we think we are entitled to just waltz in and demand their cooperation. And the move from defensive autonomy into autonomous cooperation is seeded in the waiting area. When the first contact is warm, respectful, and non-hostile, the transition from greeting to examination becomes a natural flow. The child feels safe enough to participate, and the parents feel reassured that the encounter will work. But autonomy requires clarity. I must decide before the consultation begins what is negotiable and what is not. Negotiable might be how we meet, where I examine, whether it's in my ENT examination room or in a quiet corner in the waiting area, whether I use my ear television or just a headlamp, whether the child sits alone or on a parent's lap. All those things are negotiable, and I'm flexible to adjust my approach to the child's needs. On the other hand, there are some things that are non-negotiable. Mainly non-negotiable would be the fact that we do meet. And often enough, non-negotiable would be that I do need to examine the child, unless I can identify a compelling reason not to do so in this very moment. Autonomy is not about giving the child the full control. It is about giving them meaningful choices within safe boundaries. The first couple of seconds during my encounter with the child and the parents tell me almost everything I need to know about how to approach this specific child. I observe consciously how hesitantly they approach, whether they cling to a parent's hand, whether they dare to make eye contact, whether they can stand freely or hide behind a parent, whether they feel safe on the floor or need to be picked up, whether they accept my outstretched hand for a handshake or not, whether they are open to listen to me or shy away and avoid all interaction, whether they show signs of fear or distress, whether they are already bribed in the waiting area with sweets or toys, and last not least, whether they have opened up at the end of the greeting to accept a high five. These observations guide my approach in the examination room because they tell me how much autonomy the child can handle and how much support they will need. Cooperative autonomy grows when the child feels seen. I praise every tiny step they take towards me. A glance, a half step, a moment of curiosity. If they hesitate, I acknowledge it, Oh, it's fine to take your time. It's okay to check me out first. Children rarely hear that their pace is acceptable. Their surprised look tells me they feel respected and that their autonomy is recognized. And this is the moment when trust deepens. You might wonder what happens when their autonomy collides with their fear. Most children, once connected, happily follow my suggestions to explore the ear television. But there are exceptions. Some children freeze, withdraw, avoid all eye contact, or fight against my approach. In these cases, I must decide, is the examination necessary right now? Will it help to demonstrate the examination on the parent first? Do I really need the full ear-nose-throat examination, or is examination of one body part sufficient? And can the essential part of the examination be done with gentle support or restraint? Autonomy of the child means that I am respecting the child's limits unless medical need outweighs them. And in those cases, I clearly communicate what I'm about to do and why I might counter their initial will. But you can see there might be cases when I choose not to examine the child. I decline to examine a child when the examination will not any meaningful information. Because be aware, the quality of an examination with a child fighting off is pretty poor. So when I can expect that the quality of the examination will not help me in the medical decision process, I'd rather not examine. Another situation where I choose not to examine the child is when the child cannot be safely supported throughout the examination process without the situation escalating into a struggle. The reason for that might be that the parent is unwilling to cooperate with sufficient support of the child, or the child is just too big and cannot be held tightly. Furthermore, in older children where I do not manage to build trust, where I do acknowledge that the child is at capacity to consent to the medical examination or treatment, but in the end the child refuses me to examine them, then I accept their decision. However, I will point out to them the consequences of their choices. Even here, autonomy is granted by investing in trust. Violating that trust is never acceptable. In general, I avoid forced examination whenever possible. They produce poor information quality, and there is a risk to damage trust. But when the information of the examination is crucial, I use efficient, minimal restraints, always with a clear warning, the shortest possible duration, and immediate apology afterwards. I'm sorry, I know this crossed your boundaries. Thanks for letting me check you. Even in restraint, autonomy is honored through honesty, efficiency, and respect. In a nutshell, autonomy is granted by investing in trust. Children need choices, not control. They need boundaries, not battles. And any limitation of autonomy must be justified by genuine necessity, never convenience. Thanks for listening to From Fear to Fun. Next time, we will aim to create relatedness with the child and the parent. Until then, remain curious, offer connection, and keep moving from fear to fun.